I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm moving back to Spain. We don't need the fresh produce, but you do need a place you can get your beer for the weekend.
You're the first person who is saying that sentence. I moved to Milwaukee because I want to learn Spanish.
So I was this exotic person. Like, we were like, oh my God, who are you? Where are you from? This blonde thing, this tall blonde person. Like, oh, I haven't seen someone that looks like you before. I'm actually colder in Sevilla in the winter than I've ever been in Wisconsin in the winter. Like, let that one sink in.
It couldn't have started better. Hi and welcome. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah,
M-
oh, good to be here.
maybe before we start to go into the story, you could say in a few words where are you originally from and where are you living at the moment?
Yeah. So I'm American. I'm originally from Wisconsin, and now I live in Seville, Spain.
Nice, Wisconsin. I was a big fan of Life with Louie. I don't know if you know the TV series. Most probably you don't. Based on the
Life with
look of
who? Louis?
Life with Louie, yeah.
Oh, no, I don't know that one. Is that from
So
Wisconsin?
no, there was
Oh,
it's an American TV show made by Louis Anderson, the comedian. He was a stand-up comedian, and he
okay.
was telling actually the story of his childhood. And they were going to a lake in Wisconsin during the summer holidays, but I don't remember the name unfortunately. And that was
Lake
something that
Geneva, I bet.
most probably, yeah, most probably, but was a was a nice one. How was growing up in how was it to grow up in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, if I remember it correctly, right?
So I didn't grow up in Milwaukee. Milwaukee is where I lived for a few years before I moved to Spain. I'm originally from a very small town closer. It's in between Milwaukee and Madison. Madison's the capital. But it was great. It was wonderful. It was one of those, I think most of us, if you grow up in a small town, it's the most boring thing on the planet. But then afterwards, you're like, oh God, this is so boring. I wish there was more options. I wish we had more things to do. Um, but in the end, now as an adult, I reflect back on that experience, and I'm really grateful to have grown up in a small town because it really allowed me to try more things, in my school, if everyone had to participate in everything, otherwise it didn't exist. So there really wasn't, it wasn't nearly as clicky as you see, on films, on TV series. And of course, yes, there was, but I think I had a very special high school experience in that way. So I'm grateful for it. I mean, my upbringing was wonderful. Yeah, Wisconsin's great.
Was it the community spirit still there? Like not the I don't mean the high school now, but I mean just the local community. Did you have the feeling that you know everyone in the city?
Oh my God. Yes. You know everyone, everyone knows you. You know everybody's parents' names, what extracurricular activities the kids do. I mean, when I say small town, I mean small. We do not have a stoplight. We don't have a grocery store. The
Oh,
closest thing we have to a grocery store is a BP gas station, which has a decent selection for your, the essentials. You need some milk, some eggs, some bread, not fresh baked bread. Not okay. I know that we're talking to Europeans here. So, you know, your processed sliced bread that, you have every day. You're able to get those kind of and then, of course, there's a walk-in cooler of different types of beer, so that's where our focuses lie. We don't need the fresh produce, but
which
you
makes
do need a
sense.
place you can get
Which makes
get your
sense.
beer for the weekend.
I mean, one type of bread is enough, but one type of beer, who heard that? Nobody. I mean, you cannot have that.
No. Gosh,
and,
no. No, no,
and
no.
how's
I
the
actually
moves?
it
Please,
oh, sorry, I was just
no.
gonna say, it was kinda funny that I just went home for Christmas, and I went to go visit a friend of mine, and we were just gonna go, "Okay, well, let's just go stop somewhere, grab a bottle of wine on our way to your house, and then, we'll go out to dinner, get the wine, and go home." And, she goes, "Okay, well, we could go to Woodman's, I think they have a decent alcohol selection." And I'm like, "Okay," because I can't remember. I mean, I know the store, but I haven't been there in years. And we go there. I get in there and I look around, I'm like, "Oh my god." It was as if you walked into a full supermarket but it's just alcohol. Like, each row, I think in the wine department, there was a whole aisle that was said Spain, and another whole aisle that said Italy, and a whole I mean, I'm not California, whatever, and I'm just, wow, just wow. And then there's the local beers, and then the IPAs, and then the these, and then so, yes, to say priorities. Then the other
Correct.
section of the whole store was the grocery store.
I was now we went on this rabbit hole, but I have to tell you something about my impression about the US supermarkets generally. I was shocked how small is the food area and how big is the non-food area. I was really impressed because you have the let's say the place where you can buy food products, which is I was in Walmart, and I was
Ah,
in
yeah.
uh, I want to say Tesco, but it's not Tesco. Is
Target?
Target, exactly. Thank you. Target. Target. And I had the same feeling. Like you have one good aisle of food and the rest of the store is non-food.
But that's a little different. That's kind of an unfair example of
Okay.
supermarkets in the US because though both of those stores, they are department stores, they're meant to be for clothing, for things, for electronics, for whatever, life, and then there are some that also have then started giving food,
Okay. Good
offering
point.
food as a grocery store as well.
Good
But
point.
it's not a supermarket first, it's a department store first. It's meant to be for
Understood.
clothing and home goods. Now, if you were to go to a well, the ones by me are the Piggly Wiggly or the,
I love the names.
Century Food. What are some big ones? I'm trying to
I,
think.
I know I was in North
God,
Carolina and I know Food Lion, for example. Food Lion was
food lo
there.
I mean, and regionally, they're quite different, right? So
Yeah.
in where I am, they're not gonna be if you talk to someone from North Carolina, they're gonna be like, "Piggly, wait, what are you talking about?" But, up in the dairy state, we we focus more on those farm animals. What is that one called? Anyway, Meijer, that's a good one. That's like a big grocery store. But anyway, so there's many different
Mm-hmm.
ones that is a grocery store first, and then they may sell they have that one aisle, kind of how Lidl or well, we say that's how we say it in Spanish. The little, I don't know how you pronounce a grocery store.
The
It's
same. Yeah.
German.
Yeah. Lidl.
How do you pronounce it? Lidl,
Lidl.
Lidl.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, so we have that in Spain. We don't have that in the US, but they have that one aisle that's in the middle of
Non-food.
house goods, right?
Yes,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
for example,
There is also in the US. By the way, I have to say they opened in
oh,
2017 on the East Coast.
okay. Yeah, again,
I know. I'm just
I'm a
sad.
little removed and I live under a rock. So we do have Aldi though. I know we have an
True,
Aldi.
true. Yeah, that's also true. But I think Aldi had a big footprint in the US because of buying off Trader Joe's. They bought Trader Joe's years ago, and I think that was the big footprint in the US. I'm a big fanboy of US, as you can see. I know a lot of random things about US. Nobody knows why, but I like that place.
Love it.
Um, how was the move to a big city, Stephanie?
Well, so for me, so I moved to Milwaukee before I moved to Spain, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee is the biggest city in Wisconsin. I mean, it is not New York City, it is not Chicago, it's not, I mean, but it's the biggest city that we have. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, ironically enough, it's very similar in size to Sevilla. And
Mm-hmm.
so to me, it's about 700,000-ish people. And so it feels like a city, you're in a city. And I would actually say Milwaukee feels more, I mean, metropolitan is a bit generous, but you know what I mean? More like city living
Mm-hmm.
than Sevilla does, which I could talk about that in a second. But so it wasn't when I moved to Sevilla, it wasn't like, oh wow, the first big city, because I had already been living in
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee. Um, but wonderful. I mean, I think my best friend from growing up and we would talk about it all the time. Like, it's just, it's fine. Our little small town is fine, but it's just not, we're not small town kind of people. So I loved it. Like I said, I reflect back and I really appreciate that experience. I feel more comfortable. I want that liveliness, the things going on, the buzz, you know what I mean? Like I like that. Um, So, yeah, so then moving to Milwaukee, that was a great fit. I loved my life in Milwaukee. It was there was n I didn't move because of anything that was wrong. I moved because I really wanted to learn Spanish. I really, really, really wanted to be bilingual with Spanish, and I wanted Spain because I wanted Europe to be able to travel Europe and do that whole thing, and, I had studied abroad in Sevilla in
S-
college, in university. So
So I have
that's
to
kinda
say,
how I got to Sevilla.
I, I have to say you're the first person who is saying that sentence. I moved to Milwaukee because I want to learn Spanish. I mean,
No,
why
no,
in
no.
Milwaukee?
No, I moved to
Okay.
Sevilla. Sorry, I probably didn't explain that very well. I moved to Milwaukee for a job and for a job for my boyfriend at the time,
Okay.
uh, and that's why I was in Milwaukee, and then I just kind of established my life
Okay.
there.
Okay.
But I had studied abroad in university for a semester in Sevilla, and was always remembering that experience and knew that I wanted to go back. So I
Okay.
told everybody in yeah,
Now
go back.
I have to go back a bit. So you studied in you've done the primary school and maybe the beginning. So the primary school I would say you did in your hometown, right? Because you just said it, and then high school as well.
As well, yeah.
Exactly, and then you switch for university to Milwaukee.
No.
No,
Okay. Alright. So
I'm
this is
confused.
here's my life story.
Yeah.
I was did all of my schooling, elementary, middle, and high school in
Mm-hmm.
my small town. College, I went to a town called Oshkosh. It's a university called UW Oshkosh. Go Titans. And then after that, then I moved to Milwaukee. I graduated from university.
Okay, understood now.
It was my first job, and I was there for a few years, and then after I was there for
Okay.
4 or 5 years, then I
Mhm.
moved to Spain.
And your first contact with Sevilla was you when you had a semester abroad.
Yes.
And it was directly Sevilla, like you are able to choose and you choose Spain, or how was the process of doing this abroad semester?
Yeah, so I as a part of my degree, I had to study abroad. I mean, twist my arm, okay. Because I have 2 degrees. I have a business degree and a Spanish degree. Um, so I was a marketing major, global business minor, sales emphasis on one side, and then Spanish on the other side. Put it all together, I wanna be an international salesperson when I grow up. Um, but so a part of my Spanish degree, I had to study abroad, and, like, that's where I was kind of going earlier
Mhm.
is I knew I wanted Spain because it needed to be Spanish, no? But
Mhm.
I wanted Spain because I wanted Europe. I wanted it to be in Europe, to be able to travel Europe and see Europe has always fascinated me because, being from the US, where we don't have a whole lot of documented history, it's a very young country in that sense. So I see Europe, and it's so rich in history and culture and everything. Every country is the size of one of our states. So we have big states and small states. In Europe, there's big countries and small countries, but it's a whole new world. The language, the culture, the food, the people, the everything. So I've always found that really fascinating, and always wanted to go and explore. So that's why decided on Spain. We had a little study abroad fair in my university. So I went to Spain, and there were 2 options, Salamanca or Sevilla. And it just happened to be that the person from the Salamanca stand wasn't there when I happened to pass by that stand, but the person from Sevilla was there. And she was telling me how wonderful Sevilla is, the people, the culture, the language, well, the language too, but the weather, the history, everything. I'm like, "Oh my god, that sounds amazing. Yeah, okay, where do I sign?" I had never even heard of Sevilla before. At that point, I'm 19 years old, so I had heard of Madrid and Barcelona.
Talking
And it was
about good
neither one of those.
talking about
What?
good salesperson, that woman that sold you Sevilla, really good salesperson.
Absolutely. The program is SAIIE, Spanish American Institute of something. But they were great. It was a wonderful experience.
And
And so
was it the first Europe experience as expected, or was it different?
well, I had no expectations because I had absolutely again, I was 19 years old. I had no idea. I was still discovering the
Let's
world
go.
beyond Wisconsin versus the world beyond the US, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so I
Yeah.
was just this little baby discovering the world, and, um, I would say so I genuinely went in really without expectations. I was just like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna hopefully improve my Spanish, have this wonderful experience, and come home." And that's basically what happened, you know, I what I did when I was there in 2011. I was there a hot minute ago. Um, and when I was there, it was very different then than what it is now. There wasn't nearly as much tourism. There wasn't it was just a completely different it was very, mm what's the word? I don't know, untouched, I guess you could say? Undiscovered would probably be a better word.
Mhm.
It's still kind of like this hidden gem. So I was this exotic person. Like, we were like, "Oh my god, who are you? Where are you from?" This blonde thing, this tall blonde person. Like, "Oh, I haven't seen someone that looks like you before." I mean, I'm exaggerating. But it was, you know, and now it's very different present day. It's still wonderful, 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 but in a different way. But yeah, I didn't really have expectations. For me, I guess the biggest impression that kind of stuck with me was that I was there in the fall semester, so from September to December, and everyone told me springtime is the time to come to Seville. And I'm like, oh, well, cool. I'm here in the fall. And they said, you have to come in the spring because it's Semana Santa, which is Holy Week. The fair, that's when the flowers are in bloom. All the beautiful orange trees are all in bloom, and the whole city just smells amazing. This and that and this. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to come back in springtime. And I tried to extend my semester abroad to being there the whole school year. And I remember sending an email to my advisor saying, "Hello," because this was my 2nd year of university. I mean, I still had a long ways to go. Um, but I had 2 degrees going at the same time, so I said, "Hello, I'm willing to be in college for 5 years, but not longer than that. Can I stay another semester?" And he said, "I mean, you can. You would have to drop one of your degrees, though." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm not gonna drop my business degree, and I feel like it'd be pretty silly to drop my Spanish degree in order to stay in Spain another semester." So I'm like, "Mhm." But so in that moment, I decided, "Okay, that's fine. I guess I'm just gonna have to come back. I'm going to come back here." So when I came home, I told everyone in my life, my friends, my family, future employers that I then would go on to have, like, "Hey, just PS, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm moving back to Spain." Not ever my little speech, not forever, just a year or 2, you know, learn the language, travel Europe, come back being bilingual. That's my plan, just FYI. And, you know, so most people are like, "Okay, Steph. Mhm, I'm sure, yeah. Sure, okay, yeah, have fun." I'm sure that a strong majority, if not every single person, was like, "She's not gonna do it. She's not gonna do
Yeah,
it."
she's just dreams. Yeah, she's young. No.
She's young, she's a dreamer, it's fine.
But
So
Stephanie, how was the impression of the language learned in school compared to the language from Spain that you have seen in Sevilla when you were there during your college?
oh, I mean, very different. I mean, it's just like anything, right? You
Mhm.
can't really learn properly you can't learn a language from a textbook, you just can't. I will say that, you know, everything I had been studying Spanish for years, years and years and years, from since when I was 13, all through my Spanish degree. And, so I had a base of grammar and vocabulary, a very rusty base by the time I moved, because then I hadn't had contact with the language for, you know, 4 or 5 years. Um, but it was very helpful to have had that, but that's what I would say. It's a really great way to give yourself a good foundation for when you
Mhm.
move and properly learn the language,
Mhm.
right? Like, I would say that I had studied Spanish for many years, but I did not learn Spanish, if that makes or, like,
Oh,
speak
nice.
Spanish, maybe would be a
Yes,
better
yes,
way to
yes.
say it.
But it's a nice way to sing. You're studying, but you don't actually learn it until you are speaking it with some natives that made you feel that the language that you speak is not actually the one that they speak. I had
I
the
mean, I do have to put a caveat, though. My that's my experience growing up in a very small town where my Spanish teacher was American who went to college to say, "I'm gonna be a Spanish teacher," and she did, and so I mean, everybody's different, and my particular teacher that I had taught us in English. I'm sure there are plenty of Americans that do that same path and they're wonderful, wonderful teachers, not that mine wasn't, she was great, but the thing was I learned from her, but she taught us in English. Said, "Okay, today, class, let's learn about fruits and vegetables today. Apple is la manzana." And so it was one of those where I got to college, and when I had native teachers, like one was from Venezuela, one was from Spain, one was from Mexico, so they all have different accents as well. And it was a rude awakening because I realized I understood nothing. I had 0 listening comprehension. And so I felt that I'd been kind of playing catch up the whole time. So going to Spain for that semester, it put me to where I think I probably should have been at that point in my
Uh,
schooling. Do you know what I mean? After having
mhm.
studied for that many years. But again, everybody learns differently. And also some people go somewhere for 6 months and they become fluent. I'm not one of those people. I've had to fight tooth and nail for every single word that I know. So it again, I wanna pump that brake because it's not to
Mhm.
say that every single like that's just language learning or even to say that that's how language learning is in the US. I mean, do we have room for improvement as a general statement? 100%. But I don't wanna knock other people, as I'm sure there's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful teachers. It was just my personal learning experience of the teachers that I had and how my brain works in language learning, right? So, I just wanna
But I think that the language learning is a process itself, and I think what you said, that studying is not the same with speaking, or learning it is not the same, because you always have the exercise, the habit of speaking, the yeah, the habit. I think the habit is the best way in which you can call it, because if you whatever you are learning in school, if you don't practice it in private, if you don't use it for the conversations, it's still useless. It's because you know
exactly.
the rules, you know how to build a sentence, but you never know how to actually build a sentence, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Because you know the rules, but you never had to build it, and I think that's the most important. I think language is uh, I do honestly think that if you want to speak a language, after you learn the base, like you said, you learn the base, you know, you can come go, yeah. Let's say they're not able to sell you, yeah, and you know the base of words, and you know how to build the sentences, that you go there and you realize, I don't know that much, and I should listen more. And I think the biggest part of listening, and I see it with you see it with kids a lot, is listening. It's enough to listen it a lot to get the habits, to understand how they build the sentences, how they use the words, and so on.
Mhm. No, absolutely, and that for me was the biggest difficulty moving to Spain. Well, and particularly moving to Andalusia in the southern region because
Mm.
here, their accent, dialect, whatever you wanna call it, it's tricky. They speak extremely quickly, and they don't pronounce the whole word most of the time. So, I'll never forget my very first day in Sevilla. Not the first time, but when I moved back, I actually was doing, like, a little scouting trip with my best friend came with me, and just to scout it out, make sure that because I was gonna be signing up to do this TEFL course to learn how to teach English as a foreign language. So I wanted to come before I put all my eggs in that basket. Like, let me just come there. First of all, let's make sure that that school really exists, that it's, like, a real thing. I'm not getting totally scammed before I put all of you know what I mean? Like, "Okay, let's just take one step at a time here." Went to a couple other places, it was great. But so we get to Sevilla, obviously, I'm the communicator because I'm the one that's trying to move here. Um, she doesn't speak Spanish, and so and I my horrible, rusty, rusty, broken Spanish. We were looking for the metro. And it was and it was one of those where and now come to find out the metro from where we were, it's such an hilarious situation, but, knowing what I know now. But in the moment, okay, it's pouring down rain, so we just wanted to get to try to find the metro to get to where we needed to go, whatever. And so I'm in my very strong American accent, broken Spanish, "Perdona, ¿sabes dónde está el metro?" And they're like, "Do you know where the metro is?" Right? And they said, "Sí, sí, sí, está para allá." What? ¿Cómo? Like, "Está para allá." ¿Qué? Tapaya. Gracias. Gracias. You know how there's like that rule you can say what 2 times, and then the third time the person says whatever they say, you just have to accept that you've understood whether that is at all true or not. Well, I did that process with 3 separate people. Okay. And they all said, Tapaya. Paya? What is that? Are we speaking in about karate terms? Paya. I don't like, what does that mean? I don't. And so it turns out what they were saying, está para allá, which means it's
Oh.
over there. Very basic Spanish. Tapaya. Oh my God. So it's one of those where I'm like, okay, this is gonna be fun. I have no idea how this is gonna go. And it's one of those where Andalu, which is their accent, it's very challenging, but once you get it, you got it, and it's really wonderful. I love it. I think it's really beautiful and it's fun. It's like a fun I'm not gonna call it a language because it is still Spanish, it's still Castellano, but, it's a fun language to a fun, dialect to have learned. But
I moved to Germany. I think you most probably I told you that I live in Germany. I'm not originally from Germany, and I moved in a village, like literally
yes.
in a village, in a Swabian area of Germany, which has a hard accent. And besides the fact that German is not an easy language to learn, and
Right.
that doesn't help me my Latino heritage, which helps me in Spanish, in Italian, because I mostly understand most of the words and I can somehow connect the terms. Doesn't help me in German. Moved here and moved in this village, and the neighbor from in front of me was a family. There was a couple. He was 95, she was 92 years old. So
Oh.
the youngest of the youngest, they wanted to talk because they were alone.
Mhm.
And and I was like, I know this because I smiled when you said you can ask what 2 times, and then the third time you just pretend you understood. And
Yep.
all my conversation with them, I think they think I was crazy or something, because every time when they were saying something, I was, because I didn't get a word from what they were saying. So I think it took me
Right.
about 3 months until I managed to understand what they were talking to me, because they wanted to talk.
Right. Oh, well, 3 months. Hey, good for you. My process took a lot longer than that. I was very it took me a long time. I was there people will often ask me, um, "So how long did it take you to become fluent?" It's like, "Oh, I think it's a difficult question to answer because also all of us are our own toughest critics, right? So it took me years for me to say I am fluent in the Spanish language because, I still make mistakes and there's still going to be things that I don't understand or that joke that I didn't get or, whatever. And I'm learning new words all the time. But then you have to just pull yourself back a step and say, "Okay, but even in English, I don't know every word there is in the dictionary." It's one of those where we're constantly learning throughout our whole lives, and you have to be easy on yourself.
But you are more confident in your native language to ask, what do you mean by that?
Right. Right.
It's so interesting. I cannot explain it to anyone, because if someone is telling me in Romanian, I can understand. I'm very confident to say, what do you want to say? It makes no sense. Or say it in a different way. But if someone is telling me something in English or in German, I don't get it. You feel like, wow, should I ask again?
Yeah. I've seen that actually. So I wear many hats here in Sevilla. Because I'm a relocation specialist on the real estate side, but I'm also a gastronomic tour guide. So I do a tapas tour here in Sevilla. And
Nice.
I've seen that quite a bit with some of the other guides is they're those that are native in English and those that are not. It tends to be that and not all again, there's a range here, but a lot of for me, if I make a mistake in English, I make a joke about it, and it's totally understood, I will constantly say the same little joke. I'm like, "Okay, well," because it's true. I'll say, "Listen, my English has gotten worse, so I may have to lean on you for some vocabulary. I've got the information up here, but it is gonna be teamwork exercise, okay? I have to lean on you for some words." And then we all laugh about it, and it's fine because like you said, because I'm a native English speaker, so I have that confidence to say, "Hey, I'm gonna make a mistake, and that's fine." And it's almost kind of funny because then they said, "Oh, yeah, because you have all these other words in your brain." And most of the other native English speakers there probably don't speak another language, right? Not of course, again, not always, but Whereas with non-native speakers, then that can sometimes be an obstacle you have to overcome. Right? And we both have different obstacles. So my obstacle as a tour guide is what is this American person going to tell me about the gastronomy and culture of Andalusia? Like, what does she know? So I have to prove myself that no, I actually really do know what I'm talking about. But the language piece is easy. And for them, it's the opposite because they've got the stories, this, oh yeah, my grandma used to make this when I was little, and then we used to do this. And they've got that confidence all automatically, and they have to get
Mhm.
over the language hurdle. So it's, there's pros and cons in both ways. But it's interesting that you say, because I totally agree with that. You're always going to be more confident in your native tongue.
I have a work colleague who she's originally from Spain, and she was saying a sentence that I still love to this day. She said, "Paul, you have no idea how funny I am in Spanish."
I've got a story like that too. So I met my current partner, and we were teammates. And so we met in Spanish because we speak in Spanish on the team. But when I first started playing, it was my first year, so my Spanish was absolute trash. I understood nothing. They were like, "Oh, good," because it's a co-ed team. So they were just really happy to have a female who was athletic, decently athletic, and they're like, "Oh, no, 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 we need her to stay."
To increase the quota.
Right, exactly, and, I mean, to me, I had no idea. I'm just sitting here, "Oh, well, I'm a lifelong athlete. I would love to learn that vocabulary in Spanish," right? These different terms and how to talk about your body and muscles and all that stuff. Um, and they were so patient with me. But so with my horrible broken Spanish, I understood nothing. They would explain the exercise, I'd be like, I'm like, ¿Qué quiere que haga? What do you want me to do? And so they're like, "Okay, you go there." I'm like, "Okay." And it was such a process, and they were so patient with me. But then so little by little, I'm getting better, my Spanish is getting better and all these things. And then probably about a year, I can't remember how far. It was, like, towards the beginning of our relationship, but, I mean, we'd known each other pretty well at this point, but not crazy and obviously not to what it is now. And we went to a party. I went to my friend's birthday party in London, and he said it's so funny because when he would come back, he's like, "Oh my god, she was the life of the party. Like, she was so funny, and she would just say these things, and people would react in its way, and I mean, everyone. I mean, I'm like, yeah, it's crazy what you can do in your own mother tongue. In Spanish, I don't have my full personality yet, and now it's gotten much better even in Spanish, but, it was such a funny comment that he made. He's just looking at me, and it's like, "And you already fell for me having my broken Spanish." Like, "You just wait, sweetheart, you just wait." But that was the most frustrating thing about learning a language, is you really can't be truly yourself. I would often, if I first of all, if I understood what was going on in the conversation, then they would say something like, "Ooh, I've got like a little witty one-liner." I have no idea if it translates well, because of course it would be something I would say in English, and I would want to say it. I'm like, "Okay, how do I say it in Spanish? Oh, what's that word? I know it. I know it. I know it. Okay, got it." And then now there are already 5 sentences past, and you missed the moment, and now it's gone. I'm like,
This destroyed me. This destroyed me. This. Oh, what does it? Okay, I think I know. I have it now. And then you want
"Yeah,
to say it, and you realize, okay, it's gone
missed
now.
it."
It's missed it. Maybe next time, there will be another moment. But this destroyed me.
Yeah.
I lived this so many. Do you know? Most probably you know The Simpsons, right?
Okay, it's funny because you don't know how many Spaniards have told me The Simpsons is a part of Spanish culture.
Fra- uh,
Because
German culture as well.
really? So I
Yes,
wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons as a kid.
makes sense.
My
Makes
parents said it
sense.
was inappropriate. I mean, to be fair, kind of, yeah. But
You
and
are
I didn't
really,
care. I'm like,
really
"Oh,
high.
whatever, there's all these other so I actually don't know. I mean, I know it. I know the baseline, I know the premise, but I don't know "Oh, that reminds me of that episode when this and this happened." I'm like, "Okay."
There was a moment in which they were playing poker, and there were four persons sitting on a table, and Homer Simpson, who's the one of the main characters, someone called him a slow thinker, and thought about it. Should I say something because he called me a slow thinker? Should I not say something? Then he decided to stand up. By the time he stand up, he realized he was alone at the table. So I, I keep remember this scene every time when I want to say something in a different language.
Honestly, yes, yes. Well, okay, so and in my experience, my first year, I moved here in February of 2019, but I just basically dropped my stuff off, repacked my bag, and went and traveled for a month. Then I came back and I in March of 2019, right? So I had a full calendar year until life shut down for COVID.
Hmm.
But so I had 1 year and my Spanish improved immensely, but still had a long way to go. So I was able to kind of, for the most part, understand most things, but not all, definitely not everything. Like you said, 3 months. I'm like, oh my God, I wish. Mine was probably, I don't know. I would say 2 years. But because I had a whole year. If I was a one on one, like with this kind of a conversation, that sure. Yeah, I was probably in 3 to 6 months. I was pretty confident. But the problem is in a group setting, in the US and probably in Germany, um, definitely in the UK as well, in many places, if culture tells us if one person is speaking, you are not because it's rude to speak over someone, right? You'll put in your little interjection to let them know that you wanna speak, but then you stop. And that's just not how it is in Spain, especially here in the South. And it's just not a problem. It's not rude. You get so the way that I explain it is you get 3 seconds. You get 3 seconds of the person's attention and then they start to speak over you. But it's like they're not speaking over you to interrupt you to say that they're not interested. It's because I mean it could be also, but it's to say they have something to add to that, so then they just start speaking parallel to your storyline. Does that make sense? And so it's like,
Hmm.
often you'll be in a group of people and there are at least 2, if not 3 conversations happening at once, but often across or all together at the same time. So my poor little brain, which first of all, I do not come from that culture. I'm used to listening to one voice at a time just for starters. And it's a different like they're speaking super, super quickly. They're not saying the whole word. I'm like, oh my God. And so then a year in, COVID happens, and now everybody speaks with a mask on their face. And so I didn't realize how much I read lips until the lips went away. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, I did not realize that. So, and then, put him in a group setting, multiple people speaking at once. I very quickly just became I was like, "Listen, I've got my beer, it's fine. I'll just sit in the corner." Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the lips was something which destroyed me as well. I have to be honest. I had the advantage of I worked from home, so work related was not so bad, but social was a disaster because you don't really comprehend exactly what they say, and you try to make one with one to get two words, and then to try to understand the third one, try to realize what they want to say, even if you don't get the word. And with the mask on, was not possible anymore.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's so difficult.
Talking about this bilingual thing, Stefan, I have another question because then we have to go back to the story. But we went to this
Oh,
head rabbit
sorry.
hole. But I like it. Don't you have the feeling that you are developing together with your capacity to speak another language? You are developing another personality.
So it's interesting, a lot of people say that, right? They say that that, right? Like, your personality is different in one language than it is in a different one. Um, I don't know if I agree with that completely or not. Because the way that I am, like, w the things that like we were talking about before, being witty, making a joke, inserting this comment here and there, that's the same for me in both languages. I'm kind of, like, unapologetically me in both languages. But when it comes to some of the things we were just talking about, right? So if one person speaking at a time versus not, or being more formal or informal, or you know what I mean, like that type of thing, yes, because you just go with kind of the cultural norms and what's accepted and expected in one language slash culture, because it's not really only the language either, is it? It kind of is the whole package of that goes along with the culture in my opinion anyway. So I can see how that would happen. And definitely what I've been told is that my voice is different in Spanish and in English, which is interesting, but and I hear it now too, and so it is true, but it's also that's because of the intonation of your language.
Mhm.
The intonation of English, specifically North American English, which is where my English comes from, which is different than British English, which I've come to learn as well. When I was an English teacher, I was speaking British English, and it is different. You know, you hear all the listenings. I'm listening to my coworkers, and I went home my first Christmas, and my aunt, who's a retired English teacher, but so you know, teaching English to native English speakers, she said right away, "Oh, your intonation has changed. Your English has changed." I'm like, "Really? Oh, okay." And there are little Britishisms that'll come out. So I'll sometimes on tours especially, then when they'll say I'm from Wisconsin, and I'll start speaking, and then a little bit later, they're like, are you sure you're from Wisconsin? You don't really sound" But so, I don't know. I can see it, and I totally understand where that statement comes from. Um, I agree kind of. That's not a good
Okay.
answer, but what do
No,
you
no,
think?
it's a absolutely is a good answer for sure. I got told this, and I see it in people around me that are speaking multiple languages that somehow they are, but most probably it's because of the intonation. And I think this is what makes a lot of sense is because of the intonation. I also got told a few times at work in work related things like if you think that Paul is rude, just switch to English because he's not.
But you know what? Actually, that's a really good point. So in Spanish, that was a little culture shock thing for me because in the English language, both I think really in every English speaking country that I'm aware of, I'm sure, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I know definitely US, Canada, UK, Ireland, Australia, you know, we say things in a way, well, and I guess, well, anyway. So in many of these English speaking countries, the way that we say we're, like, overly kind of flowery polite
Hmm.
with our language. So, you know, saying, "Hey, sorry, when you have a quick second, if you wouldn't mind, I would love another cup of coffee." If you don't mind, otherwise, that's totally you know, we build in a big excuse to not do
because
it.
you
So
have
you can say no.
you have the vocabulary to do this that build. That's what changes. You have the vocabulary to do that build that sentence.
Well, but we have the
No?
vocabulary in Spanish, but just culturally, that's not how it's done. You would
Okay.
say Ponme un café cuando pueda, por favor. And so but it's like, give me a coffee, or like that, I mean, and we do say cuando puedas, which means when you can. So it's not like we're saying, "Give it to me now." I mean, obviously, the tone of voice and just how you are go goes really far, but I remember thinking, especially when I was first learning, so I'm translating everything directly because I don't know any better. So I'm just learning. So I'm thinking, if someone says, give me this, do that. And I'm just like, okay, that's a little rude. Like, God, I mean, just like demanding, like you're giving
Uh-huh.
me that, you know what I mean? So for me,
Uh-huh.
that was a little bit of a culture shock. And I had to, first of all, be explained. It's like, no, that's normal. It's not rude. We just and the way I love it because the way that it was explained to me, they're like, "I just don't just be direct. I don't understand why in English you have to have this whole story. Just tell me what you want." And I'm like, "You know, fair when you put it that way." But that's a
But is
cultural
it
difference as well.
I I think it's a thing for the Latin language. I'm thinking out. I was shocked also because I was in Italy and I asked about some directions and the way in which she told me, she said "Ti lo faccio vedere," like it's not the kind way to say in English. I will show it to you, like, but the tone was completely different. Like I will show it to you, like you don't know where it is. What's wrong?
Yeah.
So in this direction, and you feel it from the tone, like, but it's most probably cultural, for sure.
Yeah. For
Stephanie, because you speak Spanish, I do have two questions. Do you know que hora es?
claro.
Que, the short film from YouTube, I mean, que hora es?
Oh, no. I thought like, "Do you know
Okay,
what that means?" I'm like, "Yeah.
so no,
What
no,
time
no.
is it?"
So when I it's I think 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. I promise it will make your day.
Okay.
It's a short film made from American
Write that down.
actors who only had 1 hour of Spanish or 3 weeks of Spanish in the third grade or something like this. This is how it starts. So it's I would just say it for me extremely funny because I can understand Spanish as well. Most of it, not perfect, but I can understand it. And I don't know if you know another TV series from Spain. I think it actually is from Spain. It's called Aquí no hay quien viva.
Hombre. Yes. That's so good. It's so good.
I love it that you know it. You're the first person that I talk to that knows it. I love that show.
Really?
No sonoras, no sonoras.
I haven't seen the whole thing. I'm watching it. And I started from the beginning, and genuinely, I just don't have a lot of time to watch TV. So for me to watch an entire series, it'll likely take me the next 3 years, but whatever. You know? We're
No, but
actually right now we're watching Machos Alpha, no, ¿cómo es? Machos Alpha.
mhm,
Have you heard of it?
no.
It's actually a really good show. It's also Spanish. It's about these 4 men who are a little bit machista, but
Mhm,
in ways that are like a normalized, we should say, way in kind of our society. Like they just don't understand, they don't realize it. And then they take this course. This is at the very beginning. I'm not giving any spoilers. They take this course to deconstruct their like machismo, their masculinity, their
mhm,
toxic masculinity, right? So
mhm,
they take this course to deconstruct them, whatever the word is, I don't know anyway. And then they just carry them on their lives, and it's a really funny, it's really interesting because it's honestly more of I wouldn't say feminist show, but it's something where it appeals to both sides because it's
mhm,
ultimately teaching these men, "Hey, don't do that. Don't say that. What okay, let's think about" you know what I mean? But in a
mhm,
kind of a funny, lighthearted way. It's actually a
mhm.
really good show. So we've put pause on Aquí no hay quien viva, but that's also it's like the classic. It's the from what?
I've
Is it the
seen it.
early 2000s or the
I think
90s?
it's yeah, no, it's early 2000. So by the time when I saw start to see it, was it in TV in Romania back to when I was still in Romania? So I think it was 2010, 2011, 2012. Oh my god,
Love
that
it.
was so funny, so funny.
Great show.
We have to go back to the story. I went into so many rabbit holes, and I like it, but I'm still curious. So back to moving back from Sevilla after the abroad semester. You finished the university, then you went into a nice discovery of finding a job. How did that work?
Yeah, so okay, so like I said, I had been telling everybody that would listen, I'm moving back to
Mm-hmm.
Spain. They're like, okay. But I really had no idea how I was gonna do that because obviously as an American, I need a visa. So, and I was certainly not a visa expert. I knew
Mm-hmm.
nothing. Like, okay, well, so one day, so I was kind of always passively keeping my eyes open, but also not like actively searching
Mm-hmm.
anything. 'Cause at the time, I was a realtor. I was a real estate agent back in the US, I still am, I still am a licensed, agent in Wisconsin, and I've sold houses almost every year, actually, since I've been here. But so I'm doing this, I'm self-employed, it's my own business, but I still have the support of a company. So I have that kind of foundation. Alright, and now it's a random day, I'm at home. At this point, because this is now, what, 2018 probably? And I don't really use Facebook anymore. I certainly don't check the birthday notifications. But for whatever reason, this day, I happen to have my phone in my hand when the notification, little birthday, these people's birthdays today, when it came through and I happened to click on it, I literally, I probably, I don't know, once a year, once every 3 years, will I click on that notification? Like I don't. So I clicked on it and then I'm looking and there's this so and so's birthdays today. I'm like, that name sounds familiar to me. Who is it? And I click on it and I realize it said I should be able to give her a plug and I apologize. I can't remember her name, but she was the owner of, in her little bio there. It says owner of this company called, I believe it's called We Love Spain. And I realized, "Oh my god, that was the company that I went on these different excursions, a weekend here, a weekend there, these
Mm-hmm.
different trips when I was studying abroad." And there was always a leader person that would bring us wherever we were going to go. And they were paid excursions. Obviously, they were optional. It's something that they marketed towards the Erasmus or towards the study abroad kids, but it wasn't a part of the program. And I'm like, at the time I was 27, I'm like, "Okay," or 27, however old I was. I'm like, "Okay, actually, that sounds really fun." Like, I think I'm old enough that I could be taken seriously as an authority figure, but I'm not so old that I don't, I'm still relevant. I could still be relevant to these 20, 21-year-olds, 22, 19, whatever. So I messaged them and I said, "Hello, I'm me. This is what I'd like to do. Are you hiring?" And they got back to me the next day and they said, "Hey, thanks for reaching out. No, we're not hiring."
I,
But have you
that
ever
was.
thought about teaching English? I know, can you imagine? It's just like, yeah. No, it didn't work out quite that perfectly. But they said not to sell you anything, but we partner with this company, well, this TEFL company, and they happen to have a location where you can take the course in person, which would then ultimately be able to get you a visa, here in Sevilla, and it's in the city center. I'm like, "Oh my god." So they sent me a link, and I read every single word on their website, and I said, "This sounds perfect." So I reached out because I didn't even think about the fact that that is a choice, that you can teach English, and this is a way to go places. Like, I did not know that TEFL was a thing. So I do my research, and then ultimately that's what led me to that trip, right? So then that where, donde está el metro, which, that little scouting trip. So I went and I met with the director of the school, and everything was legit. It was great. It was wonderful. I'm like, "Hey, okay, this is wonderful. Where do I sign? Let's go. Let me pay." And I prepared I prepared everything to then be coming that following March. I mean, February, but March to do the course. Um, so that's really what got me here. I was able to do this course. I didn't understand this. I probably shouldn't say this on the internet, but I somehow it was a 1-month course, and it somehow got me 6 months of a student visa. Like, I don't know how that math is mathing, but listen, I'm not gonna ask any further question. Like, perfect, done. And I think what it was is because of the amount of hours in the course. I mean, it was a very intense course. It was from
Hmm.
10 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day plus homework. It was a very, very intense course for a whole month. So, I mean, if you divvy that out to amount of hours, that would be a normal, you know what I mean? Like what you should study. Because then as I was renewing my student visa for the next few years. And what it is 20 hours a week to be able to, well, whatever. You have to study for 20 hours a week. But I thought that would be perfect. I would be able to get my core or my certification in 1 month, and then I have the rest of the 6 months to be able to travel, explore, maybe find a job, really figure out, do I want to stay here? Do I not? Just kind of really get my feet wet and decide, do I want to make a life here or not? So, and obviously, spoiler, I decided to stay. And so I decided, okay, well, I'll just I'll renew it for 1 more year. And so I ended up finding a Spanish academy that I could properly study the Spanish language and really because that's really the reason that I moved. I really, really, really from when I was 13 in my very first Spanish class, my grandparents used to spend their winters in South Padre Island, Texas, which is the southern tip, so very close to Mexico. We went there, sorry, another little sidebar, but we went there to go visit them for Christmas that year. We were going to buy some last minute Christmas gifts, and I was trying to buy this thing from this woman, and she couldn't remember the price, the number in English, so she kept saying it in Spanish to jog her memory, and she said, 54, 54, 54, and I go, 54? I was like, "Sí." What a useful skill. And then right after that, we went to a different shop and we had to talk to the lady again. And this time she was on the phone, like, blah, 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 speaking in perfect Spanish. And then she looks up at us and says, "Hi, how can I help you?" In perfect English. I'm like a light switch, just on, off English, Spanish. I'm like, listen, that is an ability that I need to have. I just need it. And I never let it go, which is what really led me on this whole path of being so passionate about wanting to learn the language and then wanting Spanish for the Europe piece. And so that's all of this has led me to from that one experience when I was 13 just leading me to where I am today, really. But so that's kinda how it went, is I got my visa renewed at the Spanish Academy, and then also then I got a teaching job at an English academy in the afternoons. So it was like learning Spanish in the morning, teaching in the afternoons, and then so that's how I was able to get here and get established.
So you didn't came to stay. Let's say it like this. You came for to see how the experience is, how would you like it, and so on. And what was when was that moment in which you say, I kind of like it here?
That's a good question. It was because you're right. It was genuinely never my intention to stay. Ever since the beginning, I would say it's not forever. I'm not going forever. I'm just gonna go there, learn the language, but learn it properly. And so I was also realistic with myself that, especially with all the schooling that I had already had in Spanish and where my level then was, I'm like, this isn't gonna be a quick thing. But I sincerely was not expecting to stay long term. Um, I would say probably maybe after about 2.5 years, because when I was going to renew again, well, I had 2 moments. One at around the 2.5-ish, forget if it was 2.5, 3 years mark, and then another one was about 4 years in. Because at the 2.5-year mark, I was very well established. I had my group of friends. I was when I first moved here, I had realized that I had done it wrong, in my opinion, right? My own self-criticism of when I had studied abroad here, because I was with my American group the whole time. When I had decided I wanted to move back, I realized I had 0 people to call and say, "Hey, guess who's coming back to Spain?" 0 people. That's sad. So I decided this time, okay, no Americans, no offense, Americans. I was like, no Americans. I have enough American friends, Spaniard, Spaniard, Spaniard. I mean, Spanish speaking, right? I really wanted the language in common, or I guess the language of our relationship, how we would communicate would be in Spanish. I knew I would have English at work. And so, I mean, I was also realistic. I wasn't going to say, "Okay, okay, you're not allowed to have any friends at work." I mean, but I was just trying to, if I was having English at work, that means I need to have Spanish everywhere else in my life. Definitely at home. I want my group, my circle, right, group of friends to be all Spanish speaking. Any activities, if I do sports or some whatever else, I wanted it all to be in Spanish, and I did, and I achieved that. Um, so almost, well, not all of my friends were Spanish, but I had a nice solid group of Spanish speaking, either Spanish or Spanish speaking friends. And that year, at about 2.5 years in, everybody moved away. I'm like, what? One moved to Madrid, one moved to Asturias, one moved to Estonia, one moved back to the UK. She was one of my non-Spanish friends, but all the rest were Spanish. Everybody left. I'm like, "Oh, like maybe this is a sign." So I wasn't really ready to move back home, back to the US. But I was thinking, you know what? Maybe this is time for a new start. Let's go to Valencia. I was very close to either moving to Valencia or the Canary Islands, not having ever been to either place. But I was like, it's one of those because I love the beach and I love a city, which is why, Cadiz, which is close to me here in the south. I love Cadiz, but it's just a little bit too small for me. Malaga, same thing. I don't know. I mean, I do like Malaga. I need to spend a little more time there, honestly. But I love Sevilla. It just still is a little bit smaller. Um,
But I think
and
Sevilla is not. I think Sevilla is not as touristic as Malaga is, right?
I mean, yes, it's still very touristy now, present day.
Hmm.
But it's also it does you don't feel it as much, in my opinion. You ask a local from here, I'm sure they have a different one. But in my opinion, it doesn't I don't really think you feel it as much because if you were to look at a map, if we were to pull up a map, I can circle, this is a touristy area of Sevilla. And does that mean that there are not tourists in the rest of the city? Well, obviously, I mean, no. Yes, they're
Hmm.
everywhere and they're staying everywhere, so you're always gonna have, like, the of their maleta, their suitcase going down
Uh-huh.
the cobblestone streets, but there's also Spaniards going on vacation too. Um,
Correct.
but It's all very concentrated, or all the big major hotspots, the cathedral, the Plaza España, the Alcázar, the Royal Palace, the old tobacco factory, the Torre del Oro, all these different things are very close to each other.
Mhm,
So it's kinda nice because the us locals who live here, you're not inundated with tourists absolutely everywhere, whereas I feel like if you're in a smaller city, I had this conversation with some clients the other day, actually. They were moving from Porto in Portugal, and they loved it there. They loved the city, they loved the vibe, but they just felt like there were tourists absolutely everywhere, and they just felt like they were kind of claustrophobic in that way, you know what I mean? Like, they couldn't just kind of
mhm,
breathe and be and just get settled, and so they were worried that that was gonna happen. Well, that was one of their questions for me about Sevilla. It's like, "Okay, well, what about Sevilla? Because we don't want that." I'm like, "You really," in my opinion, again, this is my take, this is my experience, but I don't really think it is that way because of its size. So that would
mhm,
be, and I don't know Malaga well enough to be able to say one way or the other, but that's why I like a bigger city, because
mhm.
there's just you're more spread out and there's more space for everybody. But
How was the how do you feel it was the acceptance that you felt from the people around you when you arrived, when you tried to, like you said, you focused on making Spanish friends. I don't know, it wasn't an exclusive, but you tried, and I understand the also the argument behind it. But how did you feel that? Did you ever feel like you are the non-native one? Did you ever feel that you are? Um, do you had a bad feeling, or do you think it helped a lot the fact that you were already speaking the language?
well, okay, you made a couple comments there that so, of course, I felt like the not native one because my Spanish was trash and I understood nothing. So, yes, I felt like the not native one. Um, but so it's like, or did I feel good because I already spoke the language? I didn't speak the language. I had a base and a very rusty, broken base. So, was that helpful? Yes. And that definitely did make a difference because I wasn't starting from zero. I wasn't
Hmm.
saying, ¿Dónde está el baño? And then that's it. You know what I mean? It's like I could piece together sentences, slow, simple ones, and I had to think about it. But so yes, I do think that that was helpful, definitely. Um, but I will say when it came to trying to make Spanish friends, and finding my circle, I genuinely think that I got really lucky because my best friend here, she was my very first friend. She's still my best friend. I met her, I don't know, 3 weeks in. So random our story, we call her a love story because the way that we met, it's such so random. Um, but basically, she was working at a clothing shop at the time, and I was with a girl who I lived another American girl who was in my TEFL course. And we were roommates at the time while we were taking this course. And so and she was gonna be leaving after the course, she wasn't staying. And so it was kind of Operation Make Stephanie one friend before Corinne goes back to the States. Because, it's easier to make friends with friends versus to be that one awkward, lonely person. It's like, hey guys, you guys look fun. Guess who's also a good time? You want another friend? I mean, that's so awkward, right? So it's easier if you're going with somebody else and then anyway, you get it. So
Yeah.
we were in this clothing store trying on a couple things, and I ended up asking her I ended up asking her I think I tried in Spanish for about a half a sentence, and then I got stuck and either switched to English myself or she switched to English, which is very kind. But I was asking a question about bra straps and whether or not it was acceptable to show your bra strap in Spain. Because this thing I was trying out, I'm like, I don't understand. Like, you have to wear a bra, otherwise, I mean, you have to wear a bra, but then you would see it. So like, well, I don't know how it works here. And she just looks at me and she's like, I mean, yeah, it's fine. Why? Where are you from? And I said, okay. So, well, I'm asking not because I'm a tourist just here for the weekend trying to fit in. I actually just moved here. I don't know anybody, so I don't have anybody to ask these kinds of questions to. She thankfully picked up on my very subtle hint, and she invited me out to have, well, invited us out for a drink that night with her and her partner. She's like, "Hey, well, I'm gonna go grab a drink with my partner later tonight. Oh, you guys can come if you want." I'm like, "Oh my god, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Give me the time and the place, we're there." And so we did, and so we ended up going out, we had this wonderful night, it ended up getting a little crazy, but it was in the best way, and ever since then, we hung out more, but in that night, then I met a lot of her other friends, because it ended up being we went from here to there, and, and it was we had a great time, but so I think I got really lucky in the sense that she happened to be someone who moved to England when she was 18 and knew how it felt to live in a different country where she didn't really speak the language very great. Like, she didn't have perfect English at the time and also wanted to try to fit in and meet some local people. So she could empathize in my situation. So she knew that I didn't have great Spanish, but also that I did want to try to learn. It's not like I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm here, so you have to speak in my language." Well, no, I really wanted to be able to integrate and learn her language and speak with them. So I got really lucky because I felt like she just totally adopted me. She just took me under her wing, and every time she was doing something, she would say, "Hey, I'm going out for drinks with so and so. You wanna come?" "Yes." "Hey, I'm gonna go out for dinner with this people. Do you wanna come?" "Yes." "Hey, there's this event. Do you wanna come?" "Yes." I'm like, "Yes, yes, yes, always yes." So and not everybody has that experience.
But,
I do
but I think there are
feel lucky.
But I think there are two things which are coming together. The fact that she asked you, but also the fact that you always said yes, always were always there. Because even though you were not only saying that you want to socialize more, you're actually going in, and I'm pretty sure that was not always easy, and you had hard days at work and so on, and you never said no. Like, I'll come with you. Yes, 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 yes. And I think that those are the two things that come together always.
Yeah. No, and, you're right, and I think it does go both ways for sure, but I
Absolutely.
think it's very common really in probably every culture, when and just Sevilla is no exception, is that here in this city in particular, a lot of people were born and raised here, right? So their group of
Hmm.
friends, they probably met in elementary school. So
Hmm.
if you have a group of friends since you were 5, well, it's not we've already got our group. We're good. We don't need more people to come in. And so it
And
can
being a
sometimes be challenging, but that's normal. I mean, if that's your group, that's your group, and you've got your inside jokes and you got your places that you go. And so I get it. It's a normal thing, which is again why I consider myself to be lucky in that way that she
Mhm.
was willing to invite me, and because often it's people here, especially in the South, they're wonderful. They're some of the most kindest, warmest, most welcoming people, but it's also more of, "Let's go and grab a beer together," or, like, "Let's while we're out, we're gonna have a great time, we get along great, um, but you're not gonna be the person that I call when I have a problem." Does that make sense? So, like, to get into that above like,
Mhm.
past that surface level relationship of,
Mhm.
"Hey, I'm having fun while we're together, but I'm not gonna call you to like, in
Understand.
order to forget." You know what
Mhm.
I'm trying to say? To get them to
Yeah,
call
yeah.
you, that's the tricky part. But anyway.
I for sure, like you said, I think the part that she was also living abroad and she knew what that meant. I think that helped a lot into having this openness to get you in, because I think that you in most of the situation you need people that understand what you're going through. And people, even though they are saying, "Yeah, we know you're from outside, it's not so easy," no, they don't get actually what you feel. They don't get that feeling of trying to fit in, even though you don't know the habit, you don't know the language, you don't know anything, but you try to fit in. And I think that's only someone that already lived abroad can understand.
Oh, yeah. Well, and she's just been so wonderful because we would speak in 10% English no, sorry, 10% Spanish, 90% English until we could get to 20/80, 30/70, all the way until we got to 100. And then once I was speaking with a little bit more fluency, then she goes, "Okay, y ahora ándalo." And so then she worked with me. I mean, she was my Spanish teacher. Like, shout out
Hmm.
to Gabby, you're fantastic. But so she really worked with me and was very patient with me. Also, I will say that it's something that for many, many people, myself included, I mean, it's a thing that when you're learning a foreign language, one of the most difficult pieces is getting over kind of, I'm going to call it your ego, but it's that sense of we don't want to make a mistake. We don't want to look ridiculous. We don't want to say the wrong thing. And so we just don't. So we don't want to talk. I just let that go very early. So I'm like, listen, I am here to learn the language. And do I know it no right now? No. Will I make mistakes? Of course. But I also, ever since right when I moved, I have a list of on my notes on my phone says Spanish phrases to remember. And I would just write these, like, these are like these colloquial terms of the words that are not in that textbook from when we learned, right? So you're saying, like, did you learn for a lot from school or not? And it's like, well, that's that difference. And that's in every language, right? I mean, what the textbook says and what people actually use, there's obviously, yes, it's correct, like, yes, that's what we use, but that would be more, you know what I mean? It's not
Hmm.
the everyday colloquial type of stuff. And every time somebody would say something I didn't understand, I'd be like, "¿Qué significa?" What does that mean? And I would stop them and make them explain it to me, and, I mean, not every single time, but almost every single time. I was really diligent about that because I wanted to learn it, and most people are happy to stop and tell you and explain it to you, and especially because often when you sit on the other side, if someone asks you, 'cause it was kind of fun because for me, I was learning Spanish as I was teaching English, so it was a really kind of a fun mix for me because people would ask me, my students would ask me like, "Okay, so where does this idiom come from?" Or I would say something that I didn't realize it was an expression because, you just speak how you speak. And then I see the deer in the headlights like, I'm like, "Oh, oh yeah, no, that was an expression. Okay, let's go back. What I just said means this." And it's kind of fun because it teaches you something about your own language, and it's you learn stuff, or you say, "You know what? I don't know why we call it that." Once in a blue moon. I don't know. Well, probably because the moon looks blue every once in a while. Like, I don't know. And so these things that it makes your own language kind of fun again too. So that would be my recommendation for people out there who are wanting to learn a new language but are afraid to speak and make mistakes. Make those mistakes. People are super happy to help you, and be patient, and like, they are patient. I mean, for the most part, at least here in the south of Spain.
I think there is no bigger enemy for learning a new language than your ego.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and and I can say that 100% agreeing with you, 100%. And by the way, saying expression you said before, one that I didn't know, I want to wet my feet in to see if I like it or not.
Mm,
I didn't know that expression.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
It sounds interesting. So you started teaching the languages. For how long have you done the English lessons or the
So
English teacher?
so remember how I said there were 2 moments, at 2.5 years and then about 4.
Yeah.
So it's because I had been teaching English for about 4 years, and I say
Hmm.
about because my 4th year, I was part-time, 'cause
Hmm.
I realized, okay, teaching English is fine. I was actually pleasantly surprised with how much I did enjoy it. I was fully expecting to hate it. I did not study to be an educator. There are many reasons I should not be an educator. I am a I'm a business person. I like working with adults that are reasonable, rational, let's come to an agreement, a common decision, conclusion, right? So I just came into it. I was going to be my first year. I had 4 sections of 13 going on 14-year-olds. That is such a tough age, and I'm thinking, "Oh, they're gonna eat me alive." How is this gonna go? I don't know how to be a teacher. I don't and it was great. They were honestly really wonderful. So, I was pleasantly surprised with how well it did go, how much I did enjoy it, but I realized, "Listen, this isn't filling my cup. This isn't what I want to do, right? This isn't my passion." So, and I really genuinely loved real estate. While I was teaching, I just happened to walk into a real estate company, just like a random agency, just to learn. Like, hello, I'm me. I have a little bit of experience. Actually, I'm a realtor back home. I was wondering if you could just tell me a little bit about how does real estate work here in Spain. Come to find out, there are two different ways that real estate is done in Spain. There's the traditional way, and then there's the quote unquote American way. And these are their words, not mine. But I would agree. Because and what I mean by that is there's like the big franchises like the Remax, the Keller Williams, the Century
Mhm.
21,
Mhm.
the name that came they literally came from the US. So that's
Mhm.
why the American way, because they do have their systems that they instill. So I'm like, okay. I did not know. I had walked into a traditional one. And one of the things that I love most about real estate is it's your own business. So you can do as much or as little as you want. You run it the way that you want. You don't have a boss, but you do have a broker. So you have someone to go to for support, to ask questions. But if I want to go on vacation, I go on vacation. If I want to take a Friday off, I take a Friday off. If I want to work 60 hours a week, I work 60 hours a week. If I want to work 15, that's fine too. And so that's one of the wonderful thing. One of the, I mean, there's many things that I love about real estate, but so when I walked into this agency and they said, "Yep, okay, so you would be a salaried employee, so you would earn X amount per month, and then you would earn like a really little amount of commission per sale that you have. You have your hours, you're going to be here on these days at this time. It's also a split shift, so you'd be like 9 to 2, 5 to 8:30 kind of a thing. Because of course here in Spain we have the siesta time, which you can't. I mean, you can't call on people during that time. You just can't. That's a sacred time. You don't. So I'm like,
Don't back the
sounds horrible. And so I would have a boss. I would have to ask to go on vacation. Like that's all the things that I love, and not all, but some of the main things that I loved about being a realtor have just been thrown out the door. I'm like, okay, well, okay, so I'm not going to be a realtor in Spain. That's a bummer, but whatever. And so I just went about. I was still doing these tapas tours, because I had gotten a call, with a girl from a woman that I used to we had co-taught a class, and she goes while I was teaching, she goes, "Hey, how's it going? We're looking remember how I do those tapas tours?" "Yes." "Well, we're looking for guides. I think you'd enjoy it. I think you'd be really good at it. You should apply." And I said, "Well, what do I have to do?" And she said, "Well, you have to bring a group of people to various places, and you have to explain to them what they're eating and drinking, and also eat and drink with them, and make sure that they're having a good time." It's like, I mean, I think I can do that. I think that, yeah, that sounds that or doing another adults class in the evening. I'm like, yeah, I want to try this tapas tour thing. So I started doing them both at the same time. I was teaching and I was doing the tapas tours. It was a couple days a week, and then once I got to that point at that 4-year mark, I'm like, "Okay, let me stop doing the teaching, and I'm gonna look for something else, and meanwhile, I'm doing these tapas tours." So, I mean, I was like I was surviving. Thank God I was eating on those tours. Like, that's another dinner I don't have to pay for. Those are groceries saved. So I was surviving, but surviving is the word. So I certainly wasn't like, "Ooh, I got all this money." I mean, still I'm not, but whatever. But so that's what
I
so
love
as
your
I'm trying
honesty.
to yeah. And then I ultimately rediscovered real estate here in Spain, and there's a great company, they're called Elephant Real Estate. The company that I used to work for, the first company, they reached out to me on LinkedIn and they said, "Hey, we see you have experience in the US being a realtor. We're a realtor." They're the first people to tell me this, but we're a real estate company, but with an American approach or American mentality or whatever they said. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Mhm.
And so I booked the meeting, I went, and sure enough, I was self-employed. I would have that broker kind of figure. They didn't call it a broker, but kind of like the main person that I could go to ask questions. But they have that, and they have that office that I could use, um, and et cetera. No, but otherwise it's my business. I can run it how I want to. I can work how much or how little I want to. It sounded great. And so that's what I did. And I worked for them for a year and a half, 2 years, year and a half. I don't remember. And so that's kind of what I'd been doing is I was trying to find my niche. They kept saying, "Oh, you have to find your specialty in real estate." And I didn't understand what that meant because in Wisconsin, you're a residential realtor or you're a commercial realtor. Do you sell to people or do you sell businesses? Right. And I'm thinking,
Mhm.
what does that mean? Residential. That's my niche. I'm like, well, no. Within that, you have to find what you want to specialize in. I'm like, okay. And so it took me a while to really figure out what my niche, so to speak, is, and that's when I discovered the relocation specialist niche, um, because I realized I am
Ah.
a foreigner who's now moved to Spain. I've been there. I've done that. I know what it's like. I know the struggles that you have to go through. There's a lot of people that are doing this as well. Let me help them, right? Because when I was in Wisconsin as a realtor, my favorite clients were my first time home buyers. I loved them because they were just, I just took them under my wing and I explained everything, explained the process, how it works. They have a lot of questions. I help them through the whole way, right? And then now here, I realize that that most of them are rent before they buy, and that's my recommendation anyway. You wanna make sure, first of all, do I like Spain? Secondly, do I like Sevilla? And then which neighborhood, right? Because often, okay, we rented here, and then we realize, you know what? Actually, my doctor's here, my gym is there, I wanna do that, so, that happens. But yeah, so that's kind of what I stumbled into, and so now it's this really wonderful community of relocation specialists. I've got people, partners all throughout Spain, and we all work together, and yeah, it's great. It's wonderful.
That's interesting. So you're doing the real estate, but only with the relocation part. That means everyone that wants to somehow move to Seville or to Spain.
So that's what I focus on. I am still
Okay.
just a regular realtor as well.
Okay.
So, what
Understood.
I kind of focus on, I mean, so I'm super happy to if there's a Spanish person that says, "Hey, will you sell my house? Will you
Uh-huh.
list it?" Yeah, of course, because I am a realtor.
Uh-huh.
Um, or same thing, if there's a Spaniard that says, "Hey, will you help me buy a house?" Of course. But most of my clients are non-Spanish. Most of
Uh-huh.
them tend to be American, but I've had clients from all over. I've had clients from Portugal, from Egypt, from South Africa, from many different places. From Germany, actually, I've got some from Germany as well. So I've got people from all over. Most of my clients happen to be American, mostly because some of the partners that I work with, they focus on the American market, and also being
Uh-huh.
American, that's a nice it's a comfortable blend, being that cultural/language bridge for
Uh-huh.
them. Um, but yeah, I do both. So I do the rentals and the purchases, depends on what they need, which is kinda nice because I guess a lot of real estate or relocation specialists don't necessarily sell. Some do, but not all of them do. So I am one of those that does it plays in both baskets.
That's nice. I mean, there are not a lot of cases in which you are doing the same job as from your home country, and I think that's something which is really nice for you, that you are able to do the thing that you liked in the US to
Yeah.
do it in Spain as well. And I think that's not happening so often.
Right, I feel really lucky, right? Because you're right. I actually tried to it's one of those that what I tried to do when I first left teaching, I tried to find a job, I was like, "Okay, well, I wanna try to find some online like, a remote work job where I'm earning an American salary, but living in Spain. Because even if it's a really horrible American salary, I'll be living like a queen in Spain, because it's just how it works." Right? And so I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm applying to these different jobs, but I realize it's just one of those, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Because if you go and apply and you just, here you go, here's my resume, here's my CV, and I'm a number. I'm just a number out of 50, 100, 300 more applications. I'm not going to get that job, right? And I didn't. So I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? And what I really wanted to do was real estate. And I'm like, well, it's such a bummer that real estate sucks in Spain. But so I was so grateful for Elephant to have reached out to me. And they're a wonderful company. I'm not with them anymore. I've now moved to EXP Realty, which ironically is the company that I worked for when I was in the US. So that was
Whoa.
part of the reason that I came back. Because when I first moved here, we weren't in Spain. They were at that time getting to Europe, but they weren't in Spain yet. And I remember my broker said, well, first of all, when I told my broker, I'm like, "Okay, goodbye, I'm moving to Spain." He's like, "What? What do you mean you're moving to Spain? You're doing so well. You're now having all these referrals come in. It's like coming back organically." I'm like, "I know, but if I don't do it now, I won't do it. And this is genuinely my dream. And I know I'll regret that if I don't." if I don't do it. I just need to try. I need to just rip that Band-Aid off, get it out of my system. I'll be back in a year or 2. And so he says, "Well, you know what? You could start the Spain branch or Spain, whatever, presence when you go." I'm like, "No, I'm not, no." Because it's also that wasn't my intention. I wanted to just learn the language, kinda take a year off, take a sabbatical, if you will,
Mhm.
take a gap year, and really focus on that. But now, you know, 6 years later, whatever it was at the time, then now they are very well established in Spain. I don't know what our count is now. I don't know, 500 agents or something throughout Spain, and it's ever growing. It's
Mhm.
growing all the time, and I really enjoyed working for them in Wisconsin. So it's nice to be able to come back to that. They're more international is really I have nothing negative to say against Elephant. They're a wonderful company. They're very professional. They do a really, really great job. It's just they're a Spanish company that at least in my particular office at the time, my nobody in my office, I was one of maybe 3 people out of 60 that spoke English. Which is fine because
Mhm.
then I was "Hey, Stephanie, I've got this foreign client. Will you help me?" "Yeah, of course." So there was, of course, some benefits to it, but then it was a little tricky for my own clients to be able to what I mean?
Mhm.
It's just a little it wasn't as international. It's a Spanish company, and I felt that EXP would be a better fit, and it has been a good so
So now you're having the to live in your dream country, doing. I don't want to say your dream job because I don't know if it was a dream job, but it was at least a job that you really, really enjoy. Um, are there any plans of ever going back to the States?
I mean, never say
It's
never.
a far fetched question
That's
for
the
sure.
thing.
Yeah.
It's like ever, never, always. These are such permanent words. So,
Mhm.
because who knows? Who knows what life has in store? And as my parents get older, that I'm sure that's going to bring on some new challenges. And if I have kids down the line, that's also going to probably change some perspectives. But so I don't know. I don't know. But at for the time being, I'm very happy here. Also, I really do. I love my business and where it's going, and I'm really proud of my I planted my little seed and I've been watering it, and now it's starting to blossom a little bit. So we'll see how big it can get, how big a beautiful a flower that can turn into. Who knows? But I'd really like to kind of give that a chance because it's one of those, like I said, it was like, I want to be an international salesperson when I grow up. And I'm kind of doing that. Well, what I would say is I want to be an international salesperson utilizing Spanish on a daily basis, but so I wouldn't lose it, right? So I wouldn't lose the language because in my brain, I was going to go to Spain, learn the language, now come back being bilingual. And my idea was well, this was before I got into real estate when I was kind of thinking about this was I wanted to work for an international company that would just send me places so that I could travel. I love traveling. I love exploring new places, learning the culture, the language, everything. Well, the food, all of that stuff. Um, so the ideal is they send me there for a few days. I stay a couple extra days, see it, and then I come home, doing my Spanish thing, whatever. But what I've come to realize is being in Wisconsin, which is, I mean, we're neighbors with Canada. It is very far away from Latin America. There's not a lot. I mean, there is a Latin community, and there is definitely, but it's not Miami. You know what I mean? It's not Southern California. It's not, it just doesn't have that same where you just see Spanish everywhere. I wish it was. That would be fantastic. Um, but so there just isn't that same market, right? And
Mhm.
I think here now it's come kind of full circle for me because now I am that international salesperson, just doing it from here with Americans versus doing it from there with Spanish speaking people, right? So it's doing the same thing just on the other side of the pond. And it's really rewarding because it fills my cup. I'm able to truly help these people get here and be able to fulfill their dreams that I fully understand because I've been there. So I don't know, will I ever move back? Maybe, but in the short term, no.
I will link your social media in the show notes caption because I think it's important for whomever wants to to relocate to Spain, I think you have an amazing person that can help you.
Thank you.
Stefan, I want to ask you, how does Wisconsin feel now?
How does it feel now?
Yeah,
Right at the
for you.
moment, it's very cold, but I assume that's not where you were going.
Talking about the languages.
Yeah. Oh, but in what way? What do you mean? And how does it feel?
So I would safely be able to say for you that at the moment Spain is your home. What is Wisconsin?
So I still call Wisconsin home too. It's if I'm here and I'm talking about going back to Wisconsin, for Christmas or for
Mm-hmm.
whatever thing, then I say I'm going back home. And then when I'm in Wisconsin and I say I need to go back to Spain, I'm like, okay, then I'm going back home. So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I really do feel that both places are home.
Then I.
I never had a negative experience in Wisconsin. I love Wisconsin. I love where I'm from. And there's pros and cons to both, right? Often people here, they can't imagine living in somewhere where I have lived minus 35 degrees Celsius. And they're like, "What?" Or just a normal winter day could easily be minus 20 or 0, but it's not. I mean, maybe 5, but it's cold. But they can't fathom that. And then on the flip side, people in Wisconsin cannot fathom that I live here and it'll be in the 40s 40 something degrees every day in July and August, sometimes reaching up to 50. I think last year got up to 53 one day. Now, I mean, that's dramatic. That's also like what the one says that's been baking in the sun. You know what I mean? It's like that's probably not actually what it was. But it's in the fort. It's very, very hot. So and we don't have fantastic air conditioning. So it's one of those where but I love Wisconsin because it has 4 full seasons. I love going home in Christmas for Christmas, and it's cold, you go outside and it, like, kind of pierces your face for a second, like, "Ah, I'm home." And also because I don't have to deal with it. I'm not the one that has to shovel and, okay, yeah, I have to scrape my windshield before I get in the car, but it's different. In Sevilla, life is outdoors. We are always outside. We're in the plazas, we're on the terraces, we're outdoors 12 months out of the year. And it's funny because I'm actually colder in Sevilla in the winter than I've ever been in Wisconsin in the winter. Like, let that one sink in. And the reason why is because of what I just said. We're always outside. In Sevilla, we're
Mm-hmm.
always just outside. And
Mm-hmm.
so the
Makes sense.
plan on any given weekend will be, okay, let's meet at a bar. Like, let's grab dinner. Let's grab drink. Because when we say bar, a bar isn't necessarily only somewhere where you drink. A bar means a small little restaurant. A restaurant is a place where you eat and it has a big eating, we say salon,
Mm-hmm.
a big eating area, a big seating area, sorry. And a bar is all those little itty bitty hole in the wall places, which is basically all of them. No? So, but the thing is, so we go to a bar, but you're outside. So either sitting down and you're eating or not. And you're then, maybe you are at somewhere afterwards and you're standing, but you're going to be standing with your ungloved hand holding an ice cold beer, standing still outdoors. So, I mean, it doesn't get below 0. It doesn't get below freezing here. But once it gets late at night, once it gets to be nighttime, I mean, we're in the single digits. It'll be, I don't know, it'll be
Mm-hmm.
8, 6, 4 degrees. That's cold when you're stood there still with your ice cold. You're like, but what? I just started wearing gloves. I'm like, listen, pass. I just, no. It's just,
I think you're the only one, but
and in Wisconsin, it's different because we don't just spend
correct.
time outdoors. You go from your
Correct. Yeah.
warm heated house because you have to heat it, otherwise the pipes will freeze and then you die, or from your heated house to your heated car, like, into my car, and then you go from your heated car to the heated building or other house, and then you work you quickly go there, okay, now we're inside. So you're outdoors very little, which is a very different thing, and here, I think everywhere in the world, I would assume, at least in the case of Spain and, in the US, I'd be curious. It has to be the same in Germany. You'll tell me. But every building, every house is built for the harshest season that you have. So in the case of Wisconsin, that's winter. In the case of Sevilla, that's summer, right? So here, everything is built with tile floors, things that will keep heat out. It's not insulated very well, but kind of on purpose, right? I mean, kinda, right, it depends. I mean, but in any case, it's just different. And the tile floor, I never understood when I came here, I had never understood this like, mindset, or I don't know, I didn't understand the thought behind house shoes. Like, what does that mean? Like, in the wintertime to wear slippers, okay, just because it's cozy, but just because it's cozy, not really for necessity. And then you move to a place with all tile flooring, you're like, "Oh, okay.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
I get it now." Mhm.
Yeah. True, true. And I have to say, we are recording this in a day when where I got about 25 centimeters of snow in Germany
No
today in the
way!
morning. Yeah, yes, absolutely.
25
And
centimeters. Yeah, okay,
yes,
hold on, let
so
me do
it's
some math. What is that in inches? I think that's maybe 7 inches? Hold on, let me I have this fantastic app. It's
converter
units plus. It's what every American needs.
to
So
get the
it's
feeling about how much is 25 centimeters. But I don't actually know
see,
in
it's 10
inches.
almost 10, it's 9.8 inches.
Yeah.
Interesting, okay.
So, and I have to tell you that nobody in Germany is prepared to drive on snow. And I drove really, really slow to my son's school today. Driving to school was a disaster. And
Really, you're not
I,
prepared for snow? That's surprising.
they are, but they are extremely afraid. So I have to say they're not used to. So they
Okay.
are prepared. They have winter tires and so on, but they're not used to. So I have to say we drove at about 20, 30 kilometers per hour.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah, that's
yeah.
not
Yeah, but I used the shovel a lot today in the morning, so I do feel when you said I'm not shoveling the snow. I did about 45 minutes, successfully shoveled the snow today in the
hey,
morning, but
well
it was a
done.
good feeling.
Oh, and it's a
I haven't
workout.
had it in, yes, absolutely. I haven't had it in a while. Originally from Romania, we really had snow. I most probably not Wisconsin snow, but we really had snow in Romania as well, so
Really?
kind of got used to it. I
Okay.
missed it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, Stephanie, you are a fantastic human being. I have to say this, and
Oh,
I enjoyed this conversation. You said a few times you are lucky, and I have to say you are not lucky. You're just a hardworking person who takes the opportunities that she gets. Um, and I think somehow we have to avoid, at least when we talk about ourselves, to use this luck because it kind of diminishes the effort that we put in the things that we got until now. This is my feeling until now.
no, I mean, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I really genuinely believe, and this is gonna sound how it sounds, but I believe that attitude is everything. It really is. And if you have a positive attitude and a positive outlook on life, things will happen for you. I really, I mean, of course, with the hard work and you putting in the effort, I mean, it doesn't just come. But it's one of those where I think that has really helped me, not only in this experience of relocating, but just in life in general. And I also kind of one other thing that helps me is I live by these words that my grandmother used to say, which is it's she had this little speech and she said, "There's no sense in worrying because if you worry about something and it doesn't end up happening, well, there's no sense in worrying about it because it wasn't going to happen anyway. And if you worry about something and it does end up happening, well, there's no sense in worrying about it because it was gonna happen anyway." And I think I would shorten that too, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Um, but I think that's one thing that often people are afraid to move to other countries because they worry, like, "Well, what if, what if, what if? What if this, what if that doesn't," you know? And I think if we can just take a step back and say, "You know what? It'll work out. It will. We'll find our way. Human beings were programmed to survive, you know, and worst
Correct.
case, we go back home and say, "Hey, you know what? We
Correct.
learned a lesson. We got something out of it. We probably made some cool friends, had some good experiences, maybe some difficult experiences, but overall, I think it's always a positive thing." So I think it's been wonderful talking with you,
Absolutely.
fellow
Uh,
expat, but a different experience.
still have 5 rapid fire questions that I asked before we wrap
Oh,
it
sure,
up,
let's
and I'm
go.
sorry for this. Spanish word that doesn't exist in English.
Tranquilamente. Also, estrenar. So there's tranquilamente does exist, but it's like literally it would be tranquilly, which I mean, you would translate it to calmly or I don't know. But I think the
Mm-hmm.
way that we use it, I love it in Spanish because it's like, okay, come to my house when you want, pero tranquilamente, que todavía estoy haciendo cosas. It's like basically kind of take your
Like,
time, chill, just whoa, you know what I mean? Like don't be in a hurry is kind of what I mean. Which I feel like in English we have to have a phrase in order to get the same concept across. So I love tranquilamente. And estrenar is also fun because it's a specific word. Do you know what it means?
no,
It's a
I actually don't.
it's a specific word when you're using something for the first time. So they often use it
Mm-hmm.
for clothes, right? It's like estoy estrenando estoy. Like well, I'm wearing this for the first time,
Ah,
which is kind of
that's
it's just a
nice.
fun word, right? We don't have that in
That's nice.
English.
You are not able to translate it. Oh, that's really nice
I
one.
mean, maybe I guess like
No,
debuting. Mm,
yeah, but you never say debuting for clothes in English,
No,
right?
right? It's not
Yeah.
we wouldn't use it in normal language. We would say something to, like, make it feel very extravagant, but you wouldn't just say that to say it. I don't
I was thinking because I thought about this, and I thought about some interesting things about the language, but I don't want to go in the rabbit holes again. But like for example, desayunar. For me, the verb doesn't exist in English, so we don't say we will do breakfast.
Yeah, well, to eat breakfast, I guess we would say.
Yeah, but
Not
I
to
have somehow the
breakfast,
feeling
though, yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so that's what I thought about. But how?
But also, madrugar is the same. Like, madrugar means to wake up very early,
Hmm.
but to wake up very early. It's not just to wake up. That's
Exactly.
despertarse, and it's not to
Yeah.
get up, right? It's
Yeah.
specifically very early in the morning. It's so that's another good one too. This thing I hadn't thought about, yeah.
Nice. Um, the favorite Sevilla ritual.
Sevilla ritual.
Yes.
Hmm. Favorite Sevilla ritual. Um, oof, that's tough. I'm sure I'm gonna say something and then we're gonna hang up and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have said this instead. But I think their their way of and I don't know if I wouldn't say this is just Sevilla. I would say this is Spanish. Definitely in the South. Um, but their how do I want to say it? Kind of their way to greet people. Because what I mean by that, it's kind of a twofold. Well, to greet and to then say goodbye. Because when you in the US, if I come, especially if it's a group of people, then I'll just say, "Hi, I'm Stephanie." And then I sit down and sit next to my friend, and then I often will not find out the names of everybody else there. Of course, depending on the situation. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but you know what I mean. Here in Spain, in Sevilla, you say "Hola," and then you go to each individual person and you do the 2 kisses, and you say, "Hola, soy Stephanie," and then you say, "Hola, soy Puska" well, I would say Puskas.
Paul. Yeah, okay.
Oh, but you're backwards, sorry.
Yeah, I'm backward. I don't know why, but I realize myself as well that I'm backwards. It does matter.
Yeah,
Paul.
but you know what I mean, and so you always say,
Yeah.
"Oh, hola, encantada," and then I go to the next person, then I go to the next person, and then again when I'm leaving, then I do the same thing. I say, "Okey, hasta luego, encantado conocerte," and I do the 2 kisses again, and you have a little short conversation with each person. So, I mean, you know how that we have the reputation of being late, everybody's being late all the time. I mean, that's part of why. That's what you do, and same thing, you're walking down the street, I bump into somebody that I know, the expectation is you stop and you say hello and you have a short conversation. Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo te va? No sé qué, blah, blah, blah. And you have a conversation. So if you ultimately get, I mean, of course, again, depending on the situation, if you're going to work and you need to be there at a certain time, well, you say, voy tarde, que me tengo que ir. But you almost like, you have to give the excuse of, this is the reason that I'm not stopping to talk to you. You know what I mean? Like, which I find
Yeah,
I love Sevilla because it just feels like a big small town. Because that's like a
social.
small town vibe, right? Where you say goodbye or you say hello to everyone, you stop, you take a minute out of your day and you talk to them. And even if you don't know them, every time you walk into a store, a bar, your friend's house, it doesn't matter. If you know the person or not, you always will greet them. You will say buenas, which is you always will say buenas, and when you leave, hasta luego. You always say hello and
But
goodbye, which I find
I
really
like that.
wonderful.
I like that because I think the social interaction is something that we actually miss today, and I think that taking the time just to say, just to exchange a few words for a minute, it's really really nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, One thing that Spain is doing better than the US.
Healthcare.
I kn- I kind of knew it, but I tried. I
Okay,
want to
but
say
you know what?
except healthcare, but
But okay, I'll give you a different one because that's the obvious one, right? I mean, we're
yeah,
we're just struggling in that department, have been forever. But the other thing that I would say that Spain does really well, which is what for me was one of my biggest culture shock things. People often ask me, "So what was it? What was toughest for you? Was it the eating so late?" Which no. I mean, as a realtor, I would eat after my show, that was the least. But for me what it was learning to genuinely slow down. And I don't want, if Spaniards were to see this, I've posted about that on social media, and then, people are like, "Well, what do you mean?" And like, "What?" I mean, especially in Madrid and Barcelona, yes, they are also fast paced. They're much more metropolis vibe. But I'm here in the south, right? Which it really is. You take a step back, and they're still very very hardworking. They get everything they need to get done, um, but they really respect their time off and their time, right? And I think that's one thing that in the US, we're just kind of programmed culturally that your life is your profession. And then it's almost you should feel guilty for wanting to take time off to go and have some time for yourself. My first job out of college, so the norm, especially at the time, you get 2 weeks off for the year. You get 10 days of vacation for the year. My company, they gave you 8. And so there was one time I wanted to take one day off. I want to take a Friday. And they said, "Do you need the whole day? Can you just take a half day?" I'm like, "Dude, yeah, I need the whole day. Is that the idea? I want to leave Thursday." Like, hello. But so just to put, for example, right? No, that particular company was very intense and I was working many, 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 many hours a week. I was working like 70 hours a week, sometimes 80. It was crazy. But so I come here, people really value their time off, and they do, and they say, "Well, no, I'm not gonna do that." They put their boundaries in a very healthy way, is I guess the way that I'd wanna put it. And I really appreciate that, and I think that in general, I mean, that's Europe, right? I mean, that's really on the European side versus US. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, sure. There's different countries that'll do it more than others. Yeah, I'm probably talking to somebody in Germany. Um, but in Spain, that is one thing that they definitely do better than the US is respecting themselves, right? Respecting their own time, their lives, their personal lives, and setting boundaries and respecting those boundaries, which it was really tough for me. And now that I have my own business again, I'm going back into my whole Stephanie. Take just Sunday off. You just don't need to look at things on Sunday. Anyway, that's a different thing.
I think it's a topic for the whole Southern Europe make a small comment there. Yeah. So if you talk about Portugal, Spain, Italy, I think it's the mentality is a bit different. It's not surviving to work; is just working to survive, and that's it.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
there is no other. Yeah. Now I have to switch the question. What does US better than Spain?
Um, I would say, let's see. I mean, like, entrepreneurial, like, being a business owner here and having been a business owner there, it is much easier and less expensive to be an entrepreneur in the US than it is in Spain. And not only taxes. I'm not because of course everybody talks about taxes, but honestly, I mean, yes, we have high taxes in Spain, but they're not that crazy. The thing is in the US, we still I mean, we still a normal average person, I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about Jeff Bezos, but, like a normal human like me and you're probably gonna be taxed in the 20 something percent bracket in the US, and so it's still and then in Spain, similar, I think, and then the more money you make, the more that you get taxed, like, so it is actually kinda similar. The thing is we don't see it, it's not as upfront because the thing is all of our money goes to our military instead of, healthcare and education and, like, really anyway, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But here,
We
but the
can
thing
make
is
another episode about that.
right, so that's a whole different thing. But in Spain, my complaint, room for improvement, suggestion, whatever you wanna call it, is in order to be self-employed, you have to pay a monthly fee, like a monthly tax, I guess you could call it, whether you earn €5 a month or €5,000 a month. It doesn't matter. Just to have your business exist, you have to pay a certain amount every month, which completely deters many, many, many people that want to have their own business. They have a great idea, they have a great product, they're really talented, whatever the case may be, but they can't afford it. Because, the first year I think it's €87 a month, and then the second year it's 100 and something, and by the third year you're paying €300 a month whether you're earning money or not, and, often you'll have good months and you'll have bad months, but here, the average salary I think our minimum wage here is €1,100 a month, and some people and, of course, there's many people that earn more than that, but there's many people that don't even earn that much because they don't even have a full-time job, or I mean, so if you can think about 300 out of we'll call it 1,200, right? Like, let's round up a little bit. That's a quarter of your pay that's just going, "Okay, goodbye," just for it to exist. Doesn't matter how much money you earn, and then, of course, you have rent, and you have the rest of your bills and food and all so it's really challenging for the typical Sevillano, Spaniard in general, right, to be able to be self-employed. And so on that side, US does it better because you don't have to pay anything just to have your business exist. You get paid based or you have to pay based on the amount of income that you earn, which and then because then that also here. But so that is what I would say, just not having to pay the Autonomo fee in the US, they do that better.
And I think also if I dare to add something, I think also the bureaucracy, which is not that complicated in the US to start something on your own. I was looking to for someone. I was looking to this starting this small home bakeries in the US. You have the option to start it. I think they are called cottages, and you are able to sell in your neighborhood without making a lot of paper. So I think the less of bureaucracy there on the own business, I think it's a huge step in the future for us. Stephanie, the last question, and I would like to ask you if that 13-year-old girl from Wisconsin would be able to be here today. What do you think she will tell you? She would tell you.
She would say, "You did it! You learned the language! Good job!"
I like this positive attitude. I love it. Stephanie, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. This has been fun.
It was a lot of fun for me. I'm happy that I got to know you. I will link all your social medias or your social media and also your the links in the show note caption.
Perfect.
And I hope we get to do this again one day
Yep.
in the faraway future. Thank you so
Great.
much.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Have a good one.
Bye.